Hello, everybody. This is the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter study group. This is March 1st, 2022. This is our 24th class, and welcome whoever is watching or participating. Our mission here at the IIBA Tampa Bay is to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysts by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so that we may empower, instruct, and engage the Tampa Bay IT community. We are the Tampa Bay IIBA, but we also have all of North Tampa as well as anybody else who wants to join us. So if you'd like to be a member of a chapter, choose us and we'll be glad to take you under our wing. And Sylvia, you're gonna have to just beat me up. These are the ways you can reach us. We have a website, Meetup, Facebook, and 2 different LinkedIn groups. If you want to ask a question, get direction, need help finding a job, whatever, reach out to us. You heard Cliff online just now. He is our president. Lori's our vice president of finance. Caitlin and Priscilla are board members at large. My name is Thea Raisins. I'm the vice president of career and professional development. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, please. And Tiffany occasionally will stop in and help us run this class. Bob Churchill is our in-house resident SME. He has earned his CBAP certification, as well as a whole bunch of other letters that he claims behind his name. Basically, it means he's smarter than most of us, and he has really good content on his website. He puts it out there so that people can benefit from it. And I admire that a great deal. He continues to work for us, participating in this meeting. And because he's in this meeting, we get education hour for participating in this as well. He's also going to be doing some of the presenting tonight. So let's give people credit for attending. Let's see, I've got Sylvia on here. Let me start. I'm in presentation mode. Let me get out of this. Back to this one. Okay, we've got Cliff on the line. I'm going to go ahead and do Cliff and Bob and myself and Sylvia. I know that I didn't bring you up here. There you are. One more, come on. And did you say, Bob, that we've got somebody else?
There were 2, Stella Jalugbo, which I'm certain I totally butchered. Sorry about that. That is JELUGBO, and also Greta Carballo. Might also have mispronounced that. Greta is GRETTER. Last name CARBALLO.
Okay.
And you got the pronunciation right, so.
Awesome.
And Stella's last name doesn't have an EO, it's just an O.
Okay, thank you. I kind of felt like I was messing up there, but I didn't know quite what I was messing up on. Okay, thank you for joining us. We do ask that you participate because the conversation is what we learn from each other. So let's plan on doing that. Let me save this and close it. In our current study groups, as you know, this is number 24. Our current study group, we are asking people to teach what they know about the techniques. And I thought I already had this open. Here it is. So we've gone through some of the techniques according to the BABOK. If you want to do any reviews, we have all of these meetings recorded, and Cliff is going to post that in the chat if you want to see any of the recorded meetings. But we've gone through some of these already. We have a few more to go. Well, a lot more to go. We're doing 2, 3, maybe 4 per meeting. And let's see. Bob just got up to step away from his desk, so I'm not going to call on him. Let's see, anybody else? Just me and Ilya. Okay, so let me run up to the top.
We got a couple new ones. to join. Ilya's on now.
Oh,
and-
great.
And I think we have a new one. Mario?
Hello, guys.
Ah, Omaria came last
Amara
time.
Ferreira. She was
Thank
here
you.
last week.
And who's the other person?
Amira.
Okay. Anybody
Oh, and
else?
Ilya.
Oh, and Ilya, thank you. Okay. So, Bob, what are you going to start us off on?
I'll do the short one, which is
Functional?
non-functional requirements. And if you
Okay.
unshare, I will grab the screen.
I'm stopping sharing right now. You got it? It's all yours.
Okay, do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So non-functional requirements are different than functional requirements in the following way. Functional requirements relate to what a solution does, and that means all the behaviors, entities, actions, inputs, outputs, and it's basically the stuff the user sees and the mechanisms that generate results. Non-functional requirements are about what a system is, and they are kind of attributes of a system or quality of it. They don't necessarily have to do with quality as such, although they can, but they're mostly talking about what a system is. They're usually described in words ending in -ity, like reliability, modularity, flexibility, maintainability, scalability, usability, understandability, and so on. But there are other words like robustness and so on. There's a great Wikipedia article I list linked to down at the bottom of this article. It's published on my website today on my blog. So it's easy to find. Just search for non-functional requirements and you'll dredge it up. So requirements in general are about the abstract to-be state of the process. And if you want, or your solution, and if you want a more concrete description of the to-be state, I call that the design. I also consider as part of non-functional analysis how the system is going to be governed and maintained. So just so you see the list of NFRs on Wikipedia, there you go. There are many lists you can find around the internet. There are longer lists than this, but if you just come here, it's easy to find, and it'll give you a really good feel for the technique, and also it has a bit of accompanying discussion, which is useful. And that's all there is to say about that.
Okay, you want to go to your next one?
Sure. Let me see. I unshared. Stop share. All right. Hey, Io's here and Gayatri is here. We got all kinds of new and returning people.
Awesome, guys. If you'll put your name in the chat for me, I'll be glad to give you credit for this hour.
I'll send you a screen print with all the
Awesome.
names.
Thank you. That way we can keep plug it on. We want to learn these techniques.
Okay, do you see interface analysis now?
I
Yes,
do.
I do. Mhm.
Okay, awesome. So basically interfaces come in many shapes and sizes. I have some boilerplate up at the beginning of the article. You can ignore that. It was written probably almost 5 years ago at this point. But interfaces really have to do with the communication in a number of different contexts. Some of those are, if you can think of one I missed, I'd love to hear about it, but they can be between different processes running on the same machine, processes on separate machines that are connected by some kind of electrical connection or fiber optic or something like that. Processes on separate networks via routers and long distance connections. Users with user interfaces or various hardware interfaces like controls, knobs, buttons, switches, dials, printouts, and so on, and logical operations within processes. So any given program has logical sections to it, and the communications between sections can be thought of as interfaces. Things like RS-232 and 485, and there are tons of electrical protocols. There are BACnet and a whole bunch of industry-specific ones. They're all kind of electrical protocols or hardware protocols, and things like HTML and XML and other industry and company and situationally specific ones are information protocols, and they're used to control interfaces. A company I worked for had two of their own separate interfaces that allowed you to communicate with their hardware devices on various serial networks. So that industry, HVAC and building control in general, had a lot of industry specific interfaces. One thing you need to know about interfaces is you have to maintain logical consistency between them, and you have to make sure things aren't talking at the same time or the data can be corrupted. I've used a number of different techniques for doing this. Many are forms of mutexes, which is basically a mutual exclusion to make sure you weren't reading and writing something at the same time. So if there's a slug of data, say in a piece of shared memory or in a file someplace, and you want some other process to read that, you need to make sure that the process or that file isn't being written to exactly as you're reading it, and the data won't make sense. Another aspect of communications by computers is you need to verify the contents of the message once it's received. CRC checks or cyclic redundancy checks are one way to do that. There are many others. Interfaces should be in general as simple as possible, but they should be no simpler. You have to get the information across that you need, and it's endless, and designers and programmers, it's up to you to pack the information in an intelligent and complete and logical way. I went ahead and there are all kinds of extra links in here talking about other inter-process communication techniques and protocols I've worked with. I wrote an addendum just a couple weeks ago. And if you think of it, basic communication model as this, a speaker says something and there's a difference between what he thinks he said and what he
What he
actually
actually
said.
heard. Yeah, exactly. And so therefore what is actually said and what he actually heard, the difference between the two is then communicated as noise. So the total communication channel, the total cycle of what is said and heard, then creates the total communication channel interface, which is extremely well said. And I mean, just to add to, and then kind of tweak the discussion, and is that within the interface analysis, sir, would you say that there is a specific would you say that there's a specific way to again reassess the top level interface analysis based on where we are with systems design and requirement gathering for specific systems?
Well, any interface, and I cover a lot of that in various links that flow out of this article. I don't want to go into too much detail on that because volumes can be written of every aspect you just discussed. So signal to noise ratio you were getting at, there are packing and laying out of the various variables and understanding how they're laid out in memory, depending on what computer language you're using. Like if you're doing C++ or Fortran, that can be very, very important. But XML and things like that, or even HTML, kind of take a lot of that away by just doing a boring but way more verbose communication style. So there are pluses and minuses and trade-offs to all this. But if you think of every interface as a general application, or as a specific application of this general idea, then you'll be able to go into the details.
And so
Um,
that specifics, those specifics, are they um are they are they broken? I mean, not broken, but are they um is there a, a core area of focus, which is a core area of focus, which is then you can say either through the business requirements, or specific places within the CBAP, or within um, to pass the exam. These core areas of strength would be focused on. So within to pass the test, to pass the certification, you would have to focus on this specific area. And then so would you recommend that, sir? Like, would you recommend, to get a good score on the exam, this would be it?
well, there are a lot of levels to that, and one, there are industry standards for it. So I am looking over to the side because I've got everyone's faces on a separate screen. Um, there is a well-defined sort of 6-layer hierarchy about how communication protocols are laid out. So that's at the electrical and operating system level. At the business analysis level, oh, there's also the implementation level that the programmers have to deal with. So you have to make sure the code writes out and reads stuff and does mutexes and so on correctly. So that's one level. And as BAs, we should know that they're doing that and track the work that they do in verifying and validating that. As far as the contents of the information, we work with the SMEs and the everybody we're talking to with respect to requirements to make sure the right information is identified and sent and received. And I'm always big on, if you've heard me talk before, I always talk about this kind of 6 cycle project life cycle that goes through 6 phases, but they're always iterative. So you keep talking with all the relevant parties until you agree on everything. And once you reach full understanding, then you have the answers that you all agree on. And you may find when you implement and test that there are still problems, but you keep talking to each other iteratively until it's all worked out. Ideally, if you talk to each other enough up front, then you have a higher chance of identifying everything you need and implementing it right the first time, or at least in as few iterations as possible. If we can move on, so this is an example here, all these blocks. The gray ones at the bottom show a steel mill I was working in. Our company provided the reheat furnace kind of in the middle in the highlighted block, kind of at the lower end. And those could be maybe up to 800 feet long. So they were big machines. And we had various instruments and control systems. I worked on the level 2 system in blue, highlighted in red. And all those arrows that flow between all those systems in all those processes, those all are interfaces, and many of those systems also have a user interface. So you can imagine humans sitting at terminals at every single one of those systems, controlling them. And then there was a plant-wide level 3 system that tracked the flow of materials all the way through the plant at a higher level. And then that was hooked to what's called level 4 in industrial control, which is the items in pink or purple. And that is all the business systems, ordering, personnel, payroll, accounting, all that kind of stuff. And those are hooked to external systems as needed. So those are all interfaces that had to be worked out among multiple parties, and they were pretty complex. So as one final example, nuclear power plants have 50 different identifiable fluid and electrical systems. Some describe fluid that flows in pipes, some in vessels, some are rooms within the containment structure, and they all have links between them. When I used to do nuclear power plant simulation, I would write thermal hydraulic models, and they would have to share information, receive information about water and heat and concentrations of radiation and boron and impurities and so on in the water. And we'd have to track the state of the water between systems. So if you look at this diagram, in a number of places, you'll see arrows. And you can generally see there's steam flowing in from the camera. Oh, this is the from the turbine, actually. So after you make the electricity, you have to condense all the water down, and that's what this system does. But then it successively gets rid of more and more water and more important impurities until it vents air out into the atmosphere with no radiation and impurities in it. So there's a lot of complicated and redundant hardware it takes to make that happen. And much of that stuff interfaces with the other models in the plan that are analogous to the real system. Down in this bottom link, I talk about, there are several different posts that talk about monitoring and logging activities on other systems, so you can ensure that everything in your operation is going right. So again, interfaces can be all the information, the methods, and the techniques that are required to get systems and people to work together. And we are done.
In terms of the majority of questions, I love this form. I know I love this form. I worked at Tampa Bay. A bit about myself. I worked at Tampa Bay, and I love the study group. Like, how far, just to track progress, how far have we come with the total? How far have we come with uh, the study group in terms of just a collective progress? Would we just kind of put a finger on the overall progress?
Well, which,
Oh, sorry. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I can get you in our channels. We have all our previous stuff recorded and available. And if you let Thea know that when you watch that, we can
Yeah.
give you credit for it too. So that's with everybody on here. I think we lost Thea
Fantastic.
for a little bit.
Yeah,
Looks like she's back. But yeah, like I said, I've got my LinkedIn out there. If you connect with me or even Thea too, we'll get you in our channels. And like I said, we got recordings out there available for everybody.
It's fantastic. I really, really appreciate that, sir. Like
Not a
I
problem.
saw the meetup, the meetup, and the videos posted on every Tuesday, and you know, each time I see that, I still appreciate it a lot. And so thank you so much for the study group sessions overall. Thank you.
I actually heard like 6 of the recordings, but I got it through the IIBA login.
Excellent.
And how prepared are we, would you say? I mean, like, is it, if we were to take the test, like, you know, would the majority of us pass?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you one thing. The reason why I'm here is because I heard one recording and the conversations were phenomenal. So that's why I'm here. I heard the recordings, then I came last week and here I am a second time. So I would go back and listen to the recordings because they really are that good.
Our conversations make us better. Well, actually, the recordings prior to us working on techniques are test questions.
And so then those test questions are simulated test questions, meaning they're not trick questions. They're not trick questions or questions that we would, you know, out of 100 probability of 100, then out of a probability of 100, and we would definitely pass. Out of a probability of 100, we would definitely pass. Like, you know, we would definitely pass 80% of the time, or say, like, statistically 80% of us would pass, innovatively speaking. Like, you know, innovative speaking, to be able to overall say the CBAP certification does a good job of now, you know, doing a good job of being a BA with both, either be business team, technology team, or being the collaboration between the two, the business and technology.
If you were able to pass 100% of the questions from Watermark Learning, you're definitely going to pass the test. Bob tells us that Watermark's questions are even harder than they are on the test. So if you can get a good 60–70%, you'll probably pass the test.
There's never any harm in reading the BABOK board. But if you can get through all these sessions, and we're always available to ping if you have questions on anything via LinkedIn. My email is out there on my website if you can find it. Let me know who you are and I'll help you with any questions you may have. That applies to all of you. So we're all willing to help. I think if you're just smart and have some experience and you do decently on the watermark stuff and can follow the conversations we have, well, there's a good chance you'll do well on the exam.
That was fantastic, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this one.
Am I the only one Tia is breaking up for?
For me as well. Somewhere.
I can't understand you. I'm sorry. We're not able to understand you.
This should be a little better. Yeah. So
that is so much better.
So sorry about that. It's the Bluetooth Bluetooth headphones. It's they're from they're like once the battery dies, it's like.
And that died all the
And
way.
battery dead.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
next.
Well, let me tell you that reading the BABOK is your key. If you read it enough where you can recognize if something is not right or if it is in there, one of those two things, you're going to pass the test. Because if you know what's in the BABOK, you're going to pass the test. The BABOK does not always explain the world the way we live it. It's kind of an alternate reality. You've got to answer the questions according to the BABOK. That's the only way to pass the test. So you got to read it. Let's go into stakeholder list maps or personas. This is 10.4.3 in the BABOK. The easiest way for me to explain stakeholder list maps or personas is this is a way to get a grip on who your stakeholders are, as well as who your participants are. And so this gives you a couple of different ways to present this to other people, as well as keep track of it yourself. Some of these techniques are not for public use. For instance, there's a technique called a force field diagram, and it literally is a vertical bar, and you put the people that are for your project, wanting you to succeed, willing to make the change on one side, and the people that are opposed to your project, wanting you to fail on the other. And it's just a very general way for your core group to communicate who you have to win over to get your project to be accepted by that particular group. So it's not for public consumption. It's just for you and your core group to get some understanding. So stakeholder analysis involves identifying stakeholders that may be affected by the proposed initiative. These can be people that are doing the development. They can be people that are first tier users. They can be people that use it occasionally. They can be people who, let's say you're doing a database for a fire department of who's on shift. The people that are impacted by those fire department members and staff would be part of your individuals that you identify. So common types of stakeholder characteristics that are worth identifying: levels of authority within the domain of change in the organization, attitudes toward or interest in the change being undertaken, attitudes toward the business analysis work and role, and levels of decision-making authority. I want to go into each one of those a little bit. Level of authority within the domain or change within the organization. Sometimes the people that have the title of manager, director are not the only people that you need to be aware of. The people that have the ability to impact their coworkers, the people that align forms outside of their cube, the people that if they aren't for it, nobody is going to support it. Those are people you need to be aware of, and you need to be aware of what their opinions are as far as supporting your initiative or not. As a business analyst, it's our job to market our initiative, help people understand how it will benefit or impact them, if it will lessen their responsibility, lessen their busy work, give them more of what they're looking for. You have to figure out what their language is, what their values are, and relate it to them. And that goes into the attitudes toward or interest in the change being undertaken as well. Attitudes toward the business analysis work and role. If you are in an organization that business analysis is new, you're going to have to market your skills and your ability and your impact. If people think you are a glorified note taker, if they think that you're the person that just makes the meetings, if they think that you're just the person that facilitates the meetings, they don't understand what your role or value is to the company, and it's your job to show it to them. If they can understand what you bring to the table and how you're going to benefit them as well as the whole organization, they'll be a lot more likely to support your efforts. And then level of decision-making authority. I said earlier, the people that have the titles are not the only ones that can help make the project go or stop. So you have to look at that whenever you're looking at who's involved and who identifying as people that you have to talk to. So stakeholder lists. One of the things that we do as business analysts is we do a lot of communication. And let's say I'm a member of a group of 5 different business analysts in a department. If someone else has to back me up, they need to know who I'm working with and what I'm working with them for, what their interests are, things like that. So I create a stakeholder list, and my stakeholder list does things like identifies what their title is, how to reach them. Do they want bullet points or do they want paragraphs? Do they want me to go visit them in person? Whatever way I need to communicate with that individual or those groups is what you need to do. One thing that you also need to note on your stakeholder list is if you've got, say, manager A, and manager A wants you to talk to him before you talk to any of his people, you need to put that on the stakeholder list. Because what you're doing is you're setting up anybody who has to step into your role up for success. Otherwise, they're going to get blindsided. Your stakeholder map could be a matrix, which maps the stakeholders' influence, or the onion diagram. And let's go into those. This is a matrix, a stakeholder matrix. You'll see we've got a vertical here, low to high, influence of the stakeholders on the left. And then at the bottom, you have the impact of the stakeholder. So this allows you as perhaps a core group of individuals to say, I think John is over here in low, and then somebody else in the group says, oh, wait, you don't understand. He also has this thing. He's up here in low. He has low impact, but high influence. So you've got to kind of map people using dots and kind of talking through where the dots are and then labeling them is a great way. So everyone has the same understanding and you can share things that maybe the other people don't know. So here's a breakdown of high influence, high impact, high influence, low impact, low influence, high impact, and low influence, low impact. So you need to know which quadrant each of your stakeholders fall in so that you know how much time to invest, how particular you need to be treating them for their needs, etc. Then the onion diagram. This is a very visual diagram that I appreciate because I think in pictures. This allows you to say, okay, this is your core team, your solution delivery folks. And then the people that you work with directly, the affected organizational unit, you're going to list out here. Then the people outside in the enterprise, they're not in your affected organizational unit. These aren't the people you work with on like a meeting by meeting basis, but they might need to be considered in some situations. And then of course your affected external stakeholders. Whenever you're writing user stories and you're talking about this group is impacted, if you can identify which level they're in, it helps you kind of identify what the impact to the project can be, what the influence of that story should be for your prioritization. It just kind of helps you keep it very visual. A racing matrix, guys, I've literally taught a racing matrix for decades. And I looked back at the other day and went, when am I the person that gets to talk about decades? But yes, this is true. The beauty of a racing matrix is it brings accountability. It not only do you show it, the matrix itself as you're creating it during the meeting, identifying who is responsible, who is accountable, who's consulted, and who is informed for every decision that has to be made or every task that has to be accomplished. But you publish it afterwards. Everybody in the meeting knows exactly what their responsibilities are, as well as whenever you publish each of these things, identify when it's due and how it's going to be delivered. But then they know, I know if my name is on the racing matrix and I am accountable, I know everybody else knows I'm accountable. And it also is a good babysitting tool. So whenever you can say, you know, it's been a week since that meeting and we're starting to, there's deadlines that are coming up. Somebody is supposed to be doing something. I need to call them and say, hey, I just wanted to be sure that you are still on track for this thing because everybody knows, well, don't say everybody knows, because you are on the racing matrix as going to be delivering this in 2 days. How are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help? Basically just kind of rattling their cage to remind them everybody knows they're on the racing matrix. Now there's a couple of rules about the racing matrix. Let's see if that's on the next page. This is just an example. You can have multiple people responsible for an initiative. Let's say you're planning Thanksgiving dinner and you got 3 or 4 people that are going to find a place. You can have multiple people that are going to find a place. You can only have one person accountable. They are the buck stops here. They are the ones that have to get it done. Other people can help. They're the ones that are accountable. Consulted is these are the people that want to be talked to and they're gotten their opinion before the decision is made. And then informed is these are the people that want to be told after the decision is made. They don't really have any preferences. They just want to know what the decision is. So in the case of finding a place for Thanksgiving dinner, the consulted people could be saying, I have a food allergy in my family. I want to be sure you're aware of it. Or I have I don't eat where they serve this kind of food, so I want to be sure you're aware of it. Those people would be consulted. They can also be responsible and accountable. You can have multiple designations beside your name on a RACI matrix. Now, there's multiple ways to lay out a RACI matrix. This is one way. The change request process, this is a very high level process. And so you can say for every change request, this is how we're going to do it. You notice that there's one accountable, there's a couple of responsible, and then there's some consulted and informed on this. Other stakeholders, I wouldn't suggest you do it this way. It gets confusing. You don't know who other stakeholders are. If I were to be doing this one, I would have the title and the hyphen and a name. That way, if you've got someone in the project or looking at this that they know it says executive sponsor, but they don't know who the executive sponsor is, you're going to have that. Whenever I take notes for a meeting or whenever I teach someone to take notes for a meeting, I literally have them take notes in a grid so that whenever it comes down to a decision or a task, it can convert to a RACI matrix and they identify who is accountable, who is responsible, is anybody going to be consulted, and is anyone needing to be informed after the fact, as well as the date it will be delivered and how it will be delivered. If I'm expecting it in my email and somebody lays a printout on my desk, I'm not going to understand. And people have different ways that they expect things. If you put it here in writing, you don't have any surprises. Now, personas are a whole different way of looking at this. A persona is a fictional character. Whenever I worked at Hallmark Corporate, they would talk, in my early meetings, they would talk about her. She's going to want this. I thought they were talking about some boss manager person. No, they were talking about the persona of our customer, she, her. They knew her. They knew what her habits were. They knew what her hobbies were. They knew how often she shopped at Hallmark. It was a person. And then they came out with, okay, we have a couple of new demographics that we want to go after. So they created new personas. They literally created draw images of these people. It's the young soccer mom. She's got 3 kids. She has birthday parties periodically. She runs into Hallmark on her way before she picks up the kids to get something to, give the teacher as a present. They created this entire life around the personas of the customers. So they had a couple of different personas. They would cater different lines of product to the different personas. So they knew what demographic it was. They knew what stores that they shopped at, because they knew, this persona likes this kind of store. This persona is in this region. That's the way to kind of put it in something that's more tangible than we're just trying to get people to buy our stuff. So usage considerations. Using these techniques identifies specific people that must be engaged in requirements elicitation activities, as well as communication, facilitation, collaboration, and any activities to engage stakeholder groups. So it kind of gives you a map of what you need to do. And then whenever you start planning your gathering requirements, running a survey, doing your marketing of, hey, we're going to do this thing and we're really excited and it's going to save you so much effort, it tells you who you have to communicate to. Limitations. Business analysts continually working with the same teams may not need to utilize this if your team and your environment is very, very limited and doesn't flex. If you have multiple projects and multiple groups, you probably need to do something like this. If you have projects that you may need to head off to someone else, you may need to do something like this. Accessing information about specific stakeholder representatives such as influence or interest can be complicated and it can get political. You know, there are some people that they're very private and they don't want you to know. But then as you work with them, you're going to get some information. You know, they want you just to get to the point. So you give them 3 bullet points, or somebody else, they want to go out to lunch and talk it through. Write that down on your stakeholder map. Any questions or any comments? Have you experienced any of this?
I have a question, Thea. So as per your experience, which of those tools like you would mostly use like 80% of the time?
I use a racing matrix on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And mostly because that keeps people, it makes them aware of what we decided in a meeting so that we all leave the meeting with the same understanding. And it gives us a thing to check on the next meeting. How are we doing on these things? It is an asset for me.
But that you create like once for the project, and then you will just referring just in case anyone forgot what he's responsible for, or that's like every
No.
meeting you're using it.
I use a racing matrix at 2 levels. One at
Mhm.
the process level for the team, for instance, for change requests, for defect management, for release, things like that. Identify who is responsible for different tasks in those processes. That's a very high level racing matrix. And then at a meeting level, whenever we say, you need to go to Sunil and get the answer for this question, that goes on my racing matrix. The question
Okay.
is this: Ali is going to go get this information. Ali, you're going to talk to him on Friday. Okay, can we expect an answer by Monday? You're going to send that to this whole team by email. Okay, write it all out. If anybody else wants to be involved in that same conversation, I ask, and they say they want to be either responsible or consulted, depending on how involved they want to be.
So basically, each action point in your minutes, against each action point, you would put who is what accountable consultant or.
Yes.
Okay.
I teach my people that I work with what RACI means and how it's going to be used. After about 3 times of them seeing it, they kind of get the clue that, oh, I'm being held accountable for this thing that I kind of mentioned I could do. They become accountable.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good thing, I think. Once they said they accountable, then after that they cannot say like I just
Right. Or I didn't
was
know
on
I
the
was supposed
call.
to do that. You know, people in conversations, especially extroverts, we think out loud. And sometimes we think out loud and we're already in the next conversation or the next sentence before we remember that we just said we would do something. This way, whenever they leave the meeting, you can let them know what they agreed to. And I always go over my task list, my assignments at the end of a meeting, as well as any major decisions that we created or we determined, so that everyone leaves the meeting with the same understanding. Any other questions?
Thanks.
You're welcome. Sylvia, have you ever used any of these techniques?
Oh, sorry, me?
Oh, no. I
Or
was asking
those-
Sylvia, but
Oh,
Ilya,
still.
The matrix. When I teach public school, I use the matrix all the time.
Ilya, tell us how you use the matrix.
Oh, when they're problem solving and various things like that. I have
Oh,
to
you-
see it. Can you
Are you
scroll up
talking
to
about
it?
this
Yeah.
matrix right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I use it pretty much every field that I've worked in, which is several.
Excellent. This is a really great way to come to consensus amongst a group, a small group. You can't do it amongst a huge group very easily. If you say you have 3 to 5 people and you're talking through something, this helps you kind of see how things relate to each other. It literally is. You can put almost anything in these sides and just have a low to high and be able to identify this. You'll see something very similar to this in the Gartner research. They'll show how different companies relate to each other using something very similar to this.
Yeah, I've never seen the onion one either before, so that's interesting.
The onion one is Honestly, it's oval or circular manner makes it irritating to me because I like things to be in straight lines. But I do understand that, you know, the people in the center group are the people that I work with every day. Then the next group out, it's like, okay, we need to consider these. And what I've come up with after years of doing this is the people at the organizational or enterprise, sometimes I put in just categories: regulatory, legal, audit, you know, people that you need to just run your project by them to see if they want to be involved. Is there anything that they know that's going to come down the pike that could impact your project? But it's just a reminder that you need to consider them, have the conversation, see if they need to be involved, and maybe they will move into the affected stakeholder unit category instead, depending on what your project is. I once had a project that we had to create a pipeline to a bank from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it wasn't a literal pipeline, it was figurative. We had to be able to transfer money. And it was like, fine, we can do that. We work with the bank, we create the APIs, we do that. And then I went to the legal, audit, and regulatory, and they said, oh no, there's a whole bunch of rules y'all need to know about. It's got to have this kind of special encryption. It's got to be audited. We've got to have an outside auditing company come in on some periodic basis. Things that I would not have known. I mean, we were just doing the thing that we thought we were supposed to do, but knowing to go to these groups helped me not get ourselves stuck. Anybody else?
So in this onion diagram, will you put the stakeholders right in that, where is it written? Like like in circles, or how you will
Literally, I've
visually
seen PowerPoints that you start out with, here are the people that are in the solution delivery group, and it showed you drop their names in there, and then the next PowerPoint has the next group around and you drop their names in there. It's one of those, you see movement on the screen, but you go from small, medium, large. And what that does is it allows the different groups that are viewing the PowerPoint to say, I'm in the wrong group. I need to be either closer in or further out. You know, I don't have any skin in this game. I don't need to be in on your weekly meetings or daily meetings. I need to be, you know, give me the monthly update by email, please. But this way, everybody knows exactly how involved they're going to be, and it creates that visual representation of involvement. And you can take it a step further. You can say solution delivery, these are the folks we work with every single day. Or affected organizational unit, we're going to have meetings with them every 2 weeks. You know, and people kind of go, okay, I can do every 2 weeks, or I don't need every 2 weeks. Put me in on the month. Or affected external stakeholders, stick me way out there because I have nothing to do with this. But you don't know unless you ask. That's why they do their job and you do your job. Bob, do you have any comments?
I do not. I think you killed it, and that's more your area of expertise than mine. I'm more on the technical and puzzle side.
Well, you know, we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, and I really appreciate your strengths. I like your hats too. Okay, folks, we are pretty much out of time, so I would rather answer questions than start something new and not be able to finish it. Does anyone have any questions? Is anyone looking for a job or trying to fill a job?
Question,
you
is there access to this document?
Access to these documents, this particular document you're seeing is the BABOK. If you
Okay.
join the IIBA, you get it free. If you don't join the IIBA, you can spend $65 for it, I think. But
Yeah.
yes,
I have a copy of it out on our Google Drive with the meeting recordings. I didn't say that out loud, though.
he didn't say that out loud.
for $30.
Yeah, send the $3 to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's out there, but it is a copyrighted thing and you're supposed to pay money for it. So if you're going to use it a lot, I do encourage you to get your own copy. This is, the BABOK is one of those things that I have literally had to have in my hand to study because there's a lot of underlining and highlighting that helps me tactily absorb, do the kinesthetics thing to absorb the information. Yep. Yeah, look how thick that is. He's showing you how thick that thing is.
Also, all my bookmarks and notes and what have you.
Yeah, it is. If you were to try to learn it from the way that you need to take the test on your own, I would say it's going to take you 6 months of studying. That's one reason we started these study groups, because talking through it helps you kind of absorb it a little bit differently.
I also have a PMP, which I got in 09, and I'm good up through like 16 or something. And I've had version 4, 5, and 6. So for me, it's always worth it to have the hard copy. Just spend the money. If you're going to be a professional, you should have the reference material. I also do it because I do this to try to help you. And as you can see, I dig books, many technical type things, textbooks, all kinds of geekery.
I actually wrote the techniques for chapter, the glossary, and the underlying competencies chapters of the BABOK. So some of this, it's like, I remember writing that. And then others, it's like, it's been 10 years. It's time for us to rewrite it. So we're in the process of kicking up to rewrite this thing. Make it a little bit easier to understand. Maybe make it have some continuity between chapters. That's my hope. Any other, I'm sorry. You also asked for documentation. The documentation that Bob was showing you is on his website. Bob, you want to drop your
blog section? So rpchurchill.com, and go to the blog section, and there's a search box that's more or less standard WordPress, and you can find any articles you'd like that way. Also, if you write to me via either LinkedIn or my email, I'll be happy to find whatever you're looking for. And I possibly could be induced to write more articles based on questions you have. The other thing I think we ought to do before we finish is take a look at the list again. I know Ilya maybe had 1 or 2 more talks in the can, and see what we've covered so far and see what remains to be covered. I also would suggest that when this is when we finish talking for next week's meeting on Meetup, you might want to put this list so people can volunteer to take ones that have not been chosen yet, and so also we know which ones have been done.
Okay. This says that I did brainstorming last week. I don't remember doing that.
I think I did that, and
That's what I thought.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Bob did that.
I was looking at that going, I don't think that was me. Okay, cool. So this is what we have done so far. And you can see what's left. And I try to kind of put it in categories here, but I haven't finished. Let me scroll down here.
I would like all of you to do the ones you're most passionate about and most experienced with, or the ones you have the most trouble with. I will do whatever is left over. at the end that no one else wants to do, but I also have my favorites that I'll slowly sign up for. Like lessons learned, for example, I'll claim that one.
Which one?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned is phenomenal, Bob.
Also data dictionary.
Okay. You want to do those next week?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to say, Cliff, I want you to lean in on data dictionary after he does it, because I bet you see a lot of this.
Yeah, a lot of data mapping stuff, but I won't be here next week.
That's right. He has a anniversary to attend at pain of death.
25th wedding anniversary. It's been a long time going.
You have earned every bit of it. Okay, anything else anybody else would like to take?
I'll take prioritization.
Okay. Okay. Let's see, I did this one today. I think I had my dates wrong the other day. I did survey or questionnaire. I don't remember doing survey or questionnaire. I don't think I did that. Okay, we've got enough for next week. There, and workshops. Don't think I did workshops yet either. Okay, I can do workshops next time. Okay, we have marching orders. Again, if anybody has any questions or anything, contact me on LinkedIn. And Sylvia, are you available in the next 30 minutes? I'll give you a call. Okay. All right. I will see y'all next time. Thank you for your participation. You make this better. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
See
night.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's great.